Hey everybody, welcome back to Bourbon and Burns. I'm Chris, and again today we got Jim with us, and we're going to continue on with what I guess would be considered series now, really, right?
Apparently.
I guess we're kind of going back to it, and today we're going to go with the E.H. Taylor small batch with the E.H. Taylor cigar. Now this is, they make a couple different ones. Do you remember what? So this is the San Andreas wrapper.
Right.
Do you remember what the other one is?
It's a Corojo.
Corojo wrapper. Okay, so you can get either one. They kind of have two options there, but like I said, today we're going to go with the San Andreas wrapper. And I have had the Corojo. I have not had the San Andreas.
Mm-hmm.
I have had the Corojo with the E.H. Taylor small batch, and it was a pretty good pairing.
Yeah, it was very good.
But I'm excited to get into the San Andreas.
Yeah, I've had one it's a good smoke, but I don't recall what I smoked it with that night. So,
and for those of you that don't know, a San Andreas wrapper is really my style. I mean, full flavored. It is a very dark wrapper, as you can tell, and compared to that yellow gold band, I mean, it's really dark, and it presents a lot of full flavors. And like I said, I haven't had this cigar, but I'm excited to see what kind of flavor we get out of it.
Yeah, I think there's also something different with the aging process that they do with the San Andreas. It's grown in a specific area in Mexico with real volcanic soil. And the way it's aged, it's supposed to make a more elastic, forgiving leaf when they wrap it too.
Which is good for similar people like me that have a tendency to sometimes bust a wrapper up just pulling off a band. But like I said, today we are also drinking it with the E.H. Taylor small batch. And this is a brand new bottle. I killed my other bottle and was able to pick this one up. So we'll go ahead and give it a crack. That's a little loose, so I better not grab it from there. Oh, not much of a cork pop. Awesome. So I'm a big fan of E.H. Taylor bourbon. It is a 100 proof bottled in bond from Buffalo Trace. And it is one of my go-tos, one of my favorites, similar to Eagle Rare and that type of thing. What about you, Jim?
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's very, plus I like the bottle. I tend to like bottled in bonds just because you're getting the same thing. It's 4 years old, 100 proof. It's a little easier to compare when you're comparing apples to apples instead of a low proof to a 117 proof or something to that effect.
Yeah, and definitely similar along those lines, the bottled in bond. So other than your Pappies, Buffalo Trace does not particularly age state anything. So with the bottled in bond, it's at least 4 years. And I think this is, for the money, one of the best bourbons out there.
Oh, yeah.
And not just, kind of being one of those Buffalo Trace homers or anything like that, but it is a very, very good bourbon.
Tough to find sometimes, but it's a good one.
It seems to be getting easier, though. It does seem to be getting a little easier. Well, how are you cutting your cigar up today?
We're going to go with the straight cut.
I think
it's a pretty big gauge cigar, so I think straight's going to be the way to go.
I think I'm going to do the same thing. You guys know me. I usually go with a V cutter, but I'm going to change that up a little bit today. And if you notice, on the end, it has a twist on it.
Yeah.
Where they wrap the end of the wrapper, kind of like a sausage casing. That's what it always reminds me of, really.
I think they call it a pigtail, maybe? I can't remember. This one's not quite as big as some of the cigars I've had in the past. But I think Nica Rusticas are one of the ones I've had that have the really distinct pigtail on them. But this one's nowhere near big.
And this is, you could tell a very full flavored just by the smell. I'm getting heavy cedar.
Yep.
Like a rich bourbon barrel smell.
Definitely like a dry hay smell. Not like a cut mown hay, but
like if you walk like into a barn.
Yep. If you walk into the hay mound, you kind of get that dry hay smell.
Yep. I'm going to check my draw because you actually took off a little more than I did.
I took a real shallow cut to begin with just to get rid of that pigtail and then got a nice, decent sized cut on it after that.
Mine's pretty good. So I went about halfway from the pigtail to the cap.
Mm-hmm.
So just right before it starts to round there.
Is yours an open cutter?
Yeah, I went with a straight cutter. Yep.
I've got I think they call it a blind cutter. It only goes so far, so I had to take a little snippet off before I went any deeper.
There you go. Well, what do you say we fire them up?
Sounds like a plan.
I switched lighters today, so hopefully this guy will do me a little better.
Yeah, hopefully this one has enough fuel.
So my other lighter is a quad torch, and I like it whenever I'm outside because it has more of a tendency to not burn out.
Yeah.
But then it's almost too much heat initially, and it feels like I'm going to burn my eyebrows sometimes.
Yeah.
But inside, I can turn it way down low.
There we go.
Yeah, right away, that is full flavor. You got the same idea I do. So, I got this. I have a good memory, all right, but it's not quite a steel trap. And I wanted to make sure I got this right because this cigar has pieces and parts from all over the place. It is a Dominican origin, but it has a Criollo binder, Nicaragua filler with that Mexican and San Andres wrapper. So it's definitely different than your Ashton ESG that is all from Dominican, and that's easy to remember and that type of thing. But they really went all over the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
And the Northern Hemisphere for this one here. Wow. That is a very flavorful first couple puffs.
There is a lot there.
I'm getting a lot of like dark chocolate with a lot of cream flavor coming right through at the beginning.
Bit of like not really like a candy sweetness, but just kind of like that. It's not sweet like you're, biting into a cookie or something like that, but just some like a sweet, not really oak, but something kind of similar.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, but it reminds me almost of a chocolate cookie with peanut butter chips in it. And it's got like that. It's not a dark chocolate, but it's like a semi-sweet chocolate chip. Kind of, I think that's where I'm getting some of that sweetness. That's kind of what it's like for me. And I mean, the construction on the cigar is spot on.
Yeah.
So far, it's got a great burn.
I would say some light to medium veins, and the leaf's got a little bit of tooth to it, but not much. The seams are super tight.
Yes, they are. I was trying to find it, and I think I found it there, but
yeah, it's definitely a well-made cigar.
Yep. And the cap construction on it is almost perfect.
Looks like it's at least a double cap, maybe even a triple. Should have looked at that before I cut one of them off.
Yeah, mine's over here on the ground somewhere. There it is.
Might be double, but the seams are hard enough to tell, or there could be a third one snuck in there.
One. It almost looks like a triple.
Yeah.
Yep. If any of you out there that have seen them roll these or anything like that, let us know, because that's fun to kind of know about. Similar to the cigars, because it's a Buffalo Trace / Sazerac branded cigar. They don't really give you similar to their bourbon. They don't tell you the mash bill. They don't give you a whole lot of information other than where the pieces and parts really come from. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of that full flavor.
Yeah,
coming out where it is right off the bat, hits you, but then it's subtle afterwards. It's not like it sucks everything out of your mouth.
Yeah, the finish is not crazy long or drying. A little bit of pepperiness to it.
I think that's one thing I'm missing.
Maybe more of like a white pepper, not like a black pepper.
For me, it's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty, and sweet as in like the semi-sweet chocolate chips.
Yeah.
Not like you said candy, but it's not. I'm not getting much of that pepper at all or anything like that.
Getting just a little bit. Definitely a nice earthiness to it too.
Mm-hmm. A little bit darker ash, obviously, than what's on that Eagle Rare cigar.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's a little closer to the Weller Cohiba.
Yeah, I would think so.
And it seems to be burning pretty well too.
Mine's a little uneven, but that's a user error. I definitely had some little uneven light when I lit it.
So we talked about this in the previous video of, some different things, but a couple of ideas for beginner cigar folks out there. Do you have anything that would help them as far as if you have a cigar that just isn't quite burning right, or issues that they may run into and not know how to fix?
Don't be afraid to relight if it goes out. Sometimes, especially after one goes out, I know sometimes I'll get talking too much and not puff on it as quick as I should to keep it going, but don't be afraid to relight a cigar if it just went out. I've even stopped smoking a cigar, gone and had dinner, and then come back and finished it after dinner. It's not too terrible as long as, it's not like overnight or anything like that. It doesn't get a nasty taste in it. As far as uneven burns or canoeing or anything like that, it's not uncommon to have to touch up the long end with a lighter just to try and keep it burning even. Sometimes it's just the way the leaves are rolled in on the filler that funnels the air a certain way, and once you get past a certain spot, then it'll straighten out, or sometimes it gets worse, or it's hard to tell what's going to happen. But sometimes if I've got a long side, you put that side on the top when I'm drawing so that the heat kind of comes up and hopefully moves upwards to ignite that tobacco on top of it, and then usually keep it toward the bottom when I'm just resting it. Or if you're outside and there's a breeze, I would keep the long side toward so that the wind is blowing into the long side. It's supposed to help provide more oxygen and get that side burning more. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's worth a shot.
Yeah, I agree with all those, and I try all those as well. And I just kind of keep rotating the cigar as I smoke it too. That way you try and hopefully get an an even burn.
Yeah.
But like you said, sometimes there are cigars that no matter what you do, it might just be a bad roll or too dry, too wet, and there's nothing you can do sometimes. So don't feel bad.
Yeah, they usually should be fairly rare anymore because a lot of companies now are doing draw tests before they cap them and all that. So I don't run into that very frequently.
I try to get a rough idea of how long one of these takes to smoke to kind of give you guys an idea, but I'll put that at the end of the video because honestly, I haven't smoked one of these. I have no idea. And every cigar is a little bit different by the size of the cigar. I'm going to guess probably about an hour and 45 minutes roughly. Is that kind of what you think?
I'd say that's a good guess.
Yeah. And as you guys know, even if I start ahead of him, he's probably going to catch me. So, he's usually a little bit faster smoking one than I am, but
it all depends what I'm doing. Like if I'm sitting out on the deck on a nice cold or cool summer night, there's times where I've taken a cigar like this and gone 3 hours, but there's usually a few relights in there when I do that.
So back to whenever you relight, I've been trying this and I just started doing this a little while ago and I haven't really figured out whether it makes a difference. Whenever I relight it, instead of taking the first puff in, I actually take a first puff out. And they say that blows a lot of the bad, smoke heat out of it so that you don't smoke all that heat through. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you do? It's not something I had done in the past, but I'm trying to see if it makes any difference.
I don't usually do that when I'm relighting, but if I'm going to set it down for a bit and know that there's a chance it's going to go out, I'll blow through it and blow all the smoke out of it before I set it down. It's supposed to have kind of a similar effect.
Yeah. And that's basically for your newer cigar smokers. You don't want to puff on a cigar like a cigarette. One, there's a likelihood you're going to get sick. Two, the more heat that travels through, it has a tendency to bitter out the cigar, so you don't get all the flavors. So typically about every minute or so, take a puff. Much more than that, you may get a little bit of that bitter flavor, but if you wait too long, like 2 minutes, it's probably going to go out on you. So unless it's like a really great cigar that is just rolled perfect, humidor, humidity is perfect, that type of thing. But I don't know that I've ever let one go 2 minutes and not had to relight it.
No, not usually, unless it's like you said, it's got a really good burn, or you had puffed on it a little too much and it had a big hot spot in there beforehand. A lot of it will depend too on how much ash you've got on there. When you're smoking with ash hanging off the end, it slows down the airflow a little bit and can help it smoke a little bit cooler than if you've just ashed it.
And typically, right whenever I knock the ash off is whenever I have the hardest time of it going out.
Yeah.
Because I don't pay as much attention to the burn and the burn rate.
Yeah.
Really. Well, we are into the first third a good bit. I'm curious to see what it tastes like with the bourbon. So I'm going to take a puff and then get some sniffs of the bourbon. And then, I guess, give her a taste. That was an interesting puff. I don't know if it's because my mind told me I was about to get some bourbon, but I just got some vanilla out of the last puff there. And I don't know if my mind just went to that, knowing what the bourbon's like. Man. I get heavy red fruit, like cherries, and
I'm getting like almost an apple juice.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've smelled that on this bourbon.
So this, let me see if I can find some sort of date on the bottle here. I know they code them, but so it's right there. Oh, 125. So that would have been early January. The dump. So I think I got that bottle. What?
Did you get that when you went on Father's Day?
No, I got that in September this month.
Oh.
So apparently it's been in OHLQ's warehouse for quite a while.
8 months.
Holy cow.
No wonder it's so hard to find.
You're right. I think they did, you would, well, for most of you out there that are supply chain folks, you got FIFO, first in, first out, right? But some stories I've heard, I doubt that really happens there. I'm sure there's people that just pack, just keep putting the pallets in and then they pull them out. Plus, they had a big warehouse move this summer, I guess. They moved all their bourbon or all their alcohol from one warehouse to another. So I'm sure a whole bunch of stuff got mixed and matched.
And it's not like everything. It's got an expiration date.
Yeah, no. So did you try the bourbon yet?
Not yet.
No? Okay, so back to that before we had the weird... Yeah, you're right. There's there's
definitely an apple smell in there. And some molasses.
There is... I'm getting a little bit of pear.
Maybe, but it's been so long since I've eaten a pear. I'm not a good judge on that one, I don't think.
So I don't like pears, but the kids do. And so I smell it then, whenever they cut one up or whatever, but a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
Lots of...
Very fruity. But not like more like a stone fruit. Not like banana or anything like that.
Yeah. I'm getting what I would probably call cherries.
Yep.
Zero vanilla.
No.
A little bit of creaminess.
It's good mouthfeel.
Sweet red fruit initially.
I'm not getting the apple on the taste very much.
No. It all changes to that red fruit or stone fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Mid palate, some of the oak starts to come in. Aftertaste, a little bit of vanilla.
Yeah. Vanilla and not so much caramel, but more of like a brown sugar. A little molasses or brown sugar or something.
Really, with the cigar right after, it's like a creamy oak flavor.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Wow. That's
Have you tried a retrohale?
no.
There's something there. I just can't put my finger on it. So different. Very creamy.
I don't want to say it like it's like cream soda because it's not sweet like that.
Right.
But it's like and obviously not carbonated, but it's
like a nougat, like the inside of a Three Musketeers.
yeah. I'd see that. Yep. So essentially, guys, what we're doing is we are drinking and smoking a candy bar here because I like with cherries or some sort of red fruit. This is a really good pairing.
Yeah.
It is. I would have to go back to the Corojo, but I think this is a better combination with the E.H. Taylor.
I mean, the Corojo is good with the E.H. Taylor too, but I do not remember a lot of these different scents and flavors when I had them together last.
Yeah, but on the retrohale, you're right. You get that extra creaminess.
Mm-hmm.
There's another flavor in there, maybe like a red pudding or something of that nature.
Yeah, I could see that.
But it's really not because that has different spices with it. It's definitely some sort of pudding type creaminess.
Definitely brings out the cigar. Definitely brings out the sweetness in the bourbon too.
This is 100 proof bourbon, bottled in bond, and you can tell it's been well aged because of the color. They don't add any colors or anything like that. Being bottled in bond, that's but it's got nice legs on it.
Oh yeah,
and the two paired together are accentuating each one's flavor and building on the complexity.
Yeah.
Like we talked previously, sometimes a cigar or bourbon will knock one or the other out. And I think this is enhancing very well. It is not just covering one or the other up.
Yeah, that's a great bourbon, but it's definitely good, really good with this cigar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, they did a good job with the pairing. And as I'm thinking about this, I think it would be, what else would it be good with? What if you were smoking this cigar, what other bourbons would you suggest, or maybe even a whiskey, something like that?
Yeah.
What comes to mind for me is probably I think the Eagle Rare would probably be okay.
Mhm.
I think you'd get a little bit more of that caramel that would probably come out, and it would probably bring out just a little bit different flavor with the cigar. I think the Weller Antique would probably be a good one with this cigar. It seems to go fairly well, but a lot of times a wheated bourbon for me kind of gets lost or traps some of the other flavors that don't come out as well. Like I love Maker's Mark and all their private selections and everything, but they're typically not a great bourbon cigar for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or bourbon, yeah.
Cigar, yeah. I think depending on your cigar, if you had like a Connecticut or something like that, I think those would tend to go better with a wheated because they're not quite as full power, full strength, or full of flavor as a Connecticut, as a Maduro, or this is San Andreas wrappers are a type of Maduro wrapper.
So I'm starting to get a slight canoe, but I'm thinking it'll probably fix itself.
Mine's actually evened out pretty well now.
So I would say probably getting into the end of the first third, I haven't noticed much change other than, when we first started trying the bourbon with it. Last time we talked a little bit about humidors and the types of humidors we have. I would say a couple of tips if you're first starting out into cigars, getting you a few 5-packs. I would start maybe with a Tupperware and get a couple of Boveda packs. If you have somewhat temperature control area in your house or in your man cave, in your she shed, I would probably go that route. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's definitely the easiest or the most economical way to get into it. I have read that you should probably, if you're using those, to go with the 69% humidity. And it doesn't matter whether they're using the Boveda packs or the Humicare packs. They're all made by Boveda. So the 69% are supposed to be better for more of an airtight humidor like a Tupperware would be. You might get a little bit, it might not have the perfect seal, but if you use a 72 in one of those types of Tupperwares, they can get too much moisture in there and then potentially cause molding, which you do not want.
And in a humidor, you're storing cigars and they're similar to bourbon unopened. You can kind of leave them in there almost forever. If you keep them in the right humidity and the right temperature, but you can get mold.
Yep.
And if you have too high humidity with heat, and remember, 70% humidity at 40 degrees is different than 70% humidity at 72 degrees because it's all relative humidity with the temperature. A lot of people, and I sort of follow this as well, and there's some people changing it now, but I pretty much follow the 140 rule. And basically the 140 rule is 70% humidity, 70 degrees, Fahrenheit. Now, I usually keep mine a little closer to 135 because that's what a lot of people are more saying, and that varies a little bit. So you could have 68 and 72, but keep in mind that is relative humidity based upon the temperature and the area that it's in, whether it be a Tupperware, a coolador. But also, just because you think it's 70% degrees, keep it out of the sun. So if you have a clear Tupperware, cover it up if it's in any sort of direct sunlight, because that will change your cigars. And if it's 70% humidity in there, you might start to get some moisture. And then you get the terrible 4-letter word, mold.
Yep.
And that will wreck a cigar. It'll wreck a humidor before you ever know it.
Yeah, I had one of those acrylic jars that holds like 15 cigars. I used it for infused cigars for a while, and I had it empty, but I had a humidor, a Boveda pack in it, and luckily it was empty at the time. But the cork on the bottom where it had like a little layer of cork that was supposed to help retain moisture, that apparently retained too much moisture, because I opened it one day and it was covered in green mold. So it no longer holds cigars.
Yeah.
Mold spores will be bad for any cigar you put in there after that.
And I have somewhat of a food background, and my theory on it is, when in doubt, throw it out. So a lot of people, if you think you might have some mold on your cigar, it's not worth it. You could maybe transfer it over to a separate, Tupperware or something like that, but do not leave it in there.
Right.
Because if you forget about it or it transfers over, then you have a huge, terrible issue. And instead of losing money on just one cigar, it could be your whole humidor. So, keep that in mind whenever you're, rotating through your cigars too.
Yeah. But at the same time, Google some pictures of what cigar bloom looks like too, because bloom is not a bad thing, and it'll get like little white specks on your cigar. It's just the oils and stuff coming out and crystallizing on the outer wrapper of the cigar, and that's actually a good thing. But just make sure you take a look at some pictures and make sure you can tell the difference. If you can't, I've heard that if you wipe it and it disappears, that was bloom. If it rubs in and smears, that's mold. It's one way to determine which you've got. And bloom doesn't smell like mold.
Yeah. And a lot of people love their cigars with that, so that they say that's a perfectly aged cigar after being in a humidor and acclimating and everything else. And they like to smoke them that way. So, keep that in mind. That's weird. I am now getting, after that sip, a lot more molasses has started to come through. And truth be told, the bourbon had been in my basement. We are outside now. It is starting to acclimate more to the temperature that we're in. So the bourbon is getting a little bit more what we'll call room temperature. As you can tell, I'm starting to cook here in the sun. I'm hoping it goes down over the trees just a little bit. It's moving all the time, but it is October in Northeast Ohio, and I am not going to complain one bit for the weather that we're getting.
No, it has definitely been nice and dry. I think I saw in the news the other day we had 1 inch of rain in all of September this year.
And for those of you that are in Ohio, October right now, there's a full burn ban. So don't go out burning your leaves and everything else. Okay. I had to deal with that a couple of weeks ago, a week ago. It's not fun.
And it spreads fast.
Yes, it does.
Especially if you get a breeze. I can definitely see that extra molasses that's coming through.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's because pushing to the end of the first third, slightly getting into maybe the second third. And I think I'm still a little ways away from there, but the sweetness has started to go away a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm getting more of the molasses, thicker mouthfeel,
Yeah.
I think.
Still getting the apple on the nose, though.
Yeah, that I've never had. That's my third or fourth bottle of E.H. Taylor. I've never had that out of a bottle. And it's a small batch. It's not a single barrel or anything like that. Like if it was a single barrel, I'd be like, okay,
Yeah, you can see that.
you know, the difference in flavor, but the flavor profile on that is definitely different. Or not really the flavor profile. Flavor is pretty good, but the
nose is a little different.
Yeah. And the only thing that I've had that I've gotten like apple off the nose really is like Angel's Envy. Something that's been port finished or...
Yeah, I've got a bottle of Watershed that's finished in apple brandy casks. I definitely get apple on that one, but I think that's the only one that I've really noticed it besides this.
How is that apple brandy Watershed?
It's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not had it.
I get no burn off of that.
No.
No Kentucky hug at all.
Would you say that this is the smoothest bottled and bond there is out there that you've had?
Probably.
I'm trying to think of one that I've had that's smoother, and I don't know that there is one.
I don't know. I would guess that this is probably a bit more than 4 years comparative to some of the other ones that I know are age dated at 4 years. But there seems to be a little bit more oak than what I would expect from something that was that young.
And that's what, I mean, it surprises me a little bit. I noticed Maker's Mark just started putting on some of their cast strength. 7 years and 2 months, saw that on the shelf. So they age stated. And I know what they kind of shoot for, even though they don't age state too much. But I would think if there's 7 or 8 year juice in it.
You would think so. But
why?
Even normal Buffalo Trace is supposed to be what, like 6 to 7?
Yeah, 6 to 7, 8 years old-ish. Yeah. I mean, they do with the Eagle 10, Eagle 12, I guess.
But at the same time, it's a small batch. So they could be batching some 4-year stuff with some 8-year stuff.
Correct.
And they don't want to age state at 4 years because there's 8-year stuff in there, or who knows what age juice they might be putting in it. But I could see where if that was the case, that might be why they would not age state.
That would be a very good reason. Similar to Wild Turkey, I heard last year's version of Russell's 13, there was probably some 15-year juice in it.
Right. And there's no regulation on what is considered a small batch. It
Correct.
could be over 1,000 barrels in a small batch versus some distilleries that might only have 20 to 50 barrels in a small batch.
So my canoe did fix itself with maybe or maybe not a little bit of my help. A little tip of taking a puff. Wow. Taking a puff and just slightly exhaling on the wrapper a little bit to try and get that back into shape. But it came right back.
Yeah.
And either it helped or it fixed itself. But
yeah, mine's staying pretty even. Get little spots here and there where the veins are. You notice it'll get a little tooth that kind of sticks out and then catch up to itself. But the ash is holding on real nicely. I've already ashed it once, but It's definitely a nice tight ash.
I think I'm gonna see on this one, and I talked about it a little bit in one of my previous videos of having the ash be a little longer, but I'm going to see how long I can get this one to go. It looks like it might go for quite a while.
Yeah, this one's got a little bit of a crack on the one side, so I'm going to try not to trust it too much.
Just don't do what I did the one time and went to grab for my bourbon, and I had it over the table over here, and it totally knocked the ash. The ash fell off right in my bourbon.
Yeah, that's no fun. I've done that.
I was totally disappointed. And I don't know how you drag on the cigar really, but sometimes in the beginning, I like to take nice long drags.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I go through it once in a while, I like to take a shorter, smaller drag.
Yeah.
To see if it changes the flavor at all, and how it moves through the palate. And I'm not really getting much different.
No.
Today.
Usually I'll do like two medium-sized puffs when I do it. But I don't notice a big difference between how much I'm drawing at a time.
So like I mentioned, I have never had this cigar today. Jim brought these over, so thanks, Jim, for bringing over a cigar. It is much appreciated because this is a really good cigar. I do have to say, I mean, it's right up there.
Yeah, I had never heard of them until about 2 weeks ago. I saw them on one of the auction sites I go to and decided to try a 5-pack. Definitely worth it. Price-wise, they're not too bad. You can usually get these or the Corojo E.H. Taylors for, the ash is definitely not staying on there. For about $5 a piece, maybe $6. There we go. That would have knocked the ash off.
And I did some research, and since I hadn't bought them before, but if you found them for we'll say even $8 a piece, I mean, MSRP, give or take, on if you were to buy a box of about 15 of them, every place I looked was $12 to $15. So, and that's if you're buying a box of 15 of them. So, $5 to $8 for a cigar that is this good, man, this thing is, in my opinion, punching way above its weight class there.
Oh yeah, for that price, it's a very good deal.
Wow.
And it's a big ring gauge cigar too. I would be interested. I don't think they make other sizes. I think they only have the one ring gauge for each. They make the different lengths, the Robustos and the Toros, but I think they only have the one ring gauge. But this would be a very interesting cigar at like a 46, 48 ring gauge.
I wonder, probably wouldn't get quite the flavor out of it, but with the San Andres wrapper,
you might get a lot more of the wrapper flavor that way. The ratio between the filler and the wrapper would make a lot of difference, I think.
Yeah. I think it would probably cut down on a complexity a little bit, but you'd still get that, heavy San Andreas, which for me, guys, that would be perfectly okay because it is a delicious wrapper.
Yeah, there's something about the volcanic soil, because I had some punch cigars one time that had an Ometepe wrapper, which is, I forget where that's from. I want to say it's off the coast of Africa. And super volcanic soil, and those cigars were excellent.
And that's the weird thing that I didn't really understand. I mean, so we have in Pennsylvania, a lot of tobacco is grown still, but because of how things are going, I'm surprised there's not much that comes from Hawaii. Now, I understand a lot of it is, the way it is, but you would think there'd be somebody with a plot of land there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's not real flat, but like you said, the volcanic type, I would think there'd be something of that nature.
Unless they've just got a better soil for growing something else that's worth more money to them than tobacco. It's hard to tell. I don't know enough about the markets to be able to even take a guess on that.
Possibly labor. Maybe it's the labor. So into the second third, I'm getting more pepper.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say more pepper, but for me, pepper, because I didn't get it on the first third. And it is on the initial, a little bit spicy, but then it melts down in to a creamy molasses kind of flavor.
Yeah.
I think is what I'm getting. And I'm drinking a little more with it. And, so I'm getting probably that molasses, I would think, from the bourbon more than the cigar. But some of the fruit has kind of...
Yeah, the fruit is kind of tapered off a bit. But the a little bit of leather and cedar kind of coming through. Still some earthiness to the cigar, though. But still not like a spicy pepper, just a little hint.
Yeah. And this cigar, back to talking about what else this cigar might go with, that OHLQ Old Forester single barrel that we have, it has more of a woodsy, but the honey comes out with it. That would probably be good with this cigar as well. That would
probably be a really good match with it. I think this cigar would go good with something with a bit higher proof too. Cask strength of some type.
Well, stick around. We might be able to appease Jim here and figure out, maybe we'll take a look at the bar and figure out what we might be able to do in regards to that and see if we can't come up with another pairing for you. And I'll leave it at that. But speaking of that, if you guys would, if you're enjoying Jim on the channel, let us know. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Definitely leave us in the comment if you guys really like E.H. Taylor or if you're tired of all the allocation type stuff and if you'd had any of the cigars. The channel is growing and we appreciate you guys for that. I love having Jim and Scott on, and it's just way more fun to sit here with you and essentially we're just sitting here BSing.
And it's makes you learn a lot more too about what flavors you're picking out when you can bounce the ideas off of somebody else instead of just sitting by yourself having a cigar and then doubting yourself as to what you're tasting or what you're not tasting, those types of things.
Jim here has had a lot more cigars than I have, especially varieties, because whenever I first got into cigars, I pretty much smoked one or two cigars, brands and stuff. Like the Macanudo Gold was one of my favorites, and I pretty much stuck with that. But then similar, getting back into bourbon and trying all the different bourbons, I started doing the same thing with cigars. And that's what's fun to me.
Oh, me too.
All the different...
I can see if you've got a favorite and that's just what you want to smoke. I can see there's a place for that. Same thing with bourbon. If you have a favorite bourbon to drink, but I like the differences and being able to not necessarily pick out the differences, but just having the different tastes and different nose on different expressions that I've tried. Sometimes different proof points. Just sometimes I want a 90 proof or sometimes I might want 120. There's definitely a lot more complexity with when you start moving up in the proof, though.
And there definitely is. And I think certain places do better with the higher proofs, and that's more their wheelhouse, and that's more what they're looking for. But there are some, like I'll go back to the Eagle Rare 10-year, that is a legit 90 proofer that has a lot of complexity too.
Yeah. But I think the age helps give that one the complexity that it's got. Once you start getting up to 10 years, there can be a lot of different flavors that the wood's imparting on the bourbon.
So I'm still waiting to see how long the ash sticks around here. And currently, Jim is beating me in the cigar race. However, if you watch my previous video, I have more clout in the community and I am more prestigious right now. For probably, I'm going to guess about 2 more minutes. And then it's probably either going to drop.
Mine might have lasted, but it's a double banded cigar, and the lower band, a corner of it was folded over, so it glued itself to itself. And I was not going to risk dropping that on my lap or in my bourbon.
Yep. He's blaming the band. Yep. Got a little bit of a change up here for you. And I mentioned if you keep on watching, we'll do something a little similar, but I happen to have this E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof Batch 13, and we're going to try it with the cigar that is a little bit higher of a proof, and this one comes in at 127.3. So holy cannoli, it's a little bit up there. As you can tell, the bottle is open, and if you guys watch the channel, I have done a review on this, and whenever I first opened this bottle, it to me was absolute garbage. And I told everybody that this bottle was terrible, but it has opened up some, and it has gotten better. But it's been probably a month or so since I've gone back to it. It is not a bottle I go to quite often just because I'm drinking a whole lot of other stuff. Have you? I don't remember. Have you tried this down in the bar yet?
I don't think so. You can definitely smell the heat on that one.
Yeah, she's...
Legs are crazy, though.
I mean, that's legs for days.
Yes.
And to me, this is a viscous bourbon. Whenever I first tried it, it was like, I mean, to me, it was like 151. I mean, it was so hot. It was hard to drink. And at the same point, I put it in ice, and it was still hard to drink. And I let it sit for 4 months probably, and it finally opened up some, but it still has a hug, as you would expect it, 127 proof. I think about anything other than just the Stag that I have down there that's a little bit higher proof that doesn't quite have the hug, but it's up there. And right now I am becoming a very well-respected member of the community.
That's prestige worldwide right there.
Yeah, right? Boats and hoes. That is one of my favorite movies.
It is a funny movie.
It is a great movie. All those stupid humor movies that guys like, I like. No apples. Not getting any apple here.
I can taste every bit of the 27 proof, but it doesn't drink hotter than that to me.
It has calmed down some. Absolutely.
I don't get a lot on the nose of that one.
I get more brown sugar and more oak.
Yeah, I can definitely taste the oak. Still very thick mouthfeel.
So with the cigar and having that, there is more of a sweetness to me that comes out now.
Yeah.
From having it.
I definitely can't get my nose as close, that's for sure. Definitely getting some caramel on it. A lot of dried fruit.
And with the cigar afterwards, there is so much. So bear with me here. If I made vanilla pudding, put some brown sugar in it, put some caramel, not the taste, but the smell you get, the flavor from like a toasted Italian bread, and mixed all that together and maybe with some cream soda type flavors. That's what's going on in my mouth right now.
Yeah.
Like all of that mixed together.
A little bit of vanilla. But there's a lot there.
Wow.
We'll demonstrate relighting.
Yeah, in between getting the other bottle out and stuff like that, Jim's cigar went out and he's kind of relighting it up. And I usually have a problem with relighting a cigar because it's hard for me to get that heat back in it. And it kind of simply wants to keep going out. But do you have much trouble with that? Like, are you a good relighter? I must be a poor relighter to where I can't get that coming.
You got to puff a little bit more and get a good strong cherry in there going to get it to stay lit very well. If you, it's very easy to. Oop, there goes.
There it goes.
You're back down with the rest of us lowly cigar smokers now.
And I would not do that in a lounge. Do not do that in a lounge. Knock that ash off. But out here, I'll get the leaf blower out later and take care of that. But it's fun to joke around and see how long you can get that going. But back to your relighting.
Oh yeah, just the key is just getting a few good puffs, puff a little bit more frequently to get it lit again, because you can always you can get a little bit of smoke out of it with the on the relight, but it's easy to think you've got it lit and then 30 seconds later you go to puff on it again and it's out. So you got to be a little bit more aggressive with it when you first relight until it gets a nice hot ember in there, and then it should stay lit most of the time. Until I get lost watching YouTube videos and forget to puff on it a few times.
So that is one of my favorite things to do. More so in the wintertime when I'm down in the cigar lounge. I have the computer sitting there with me, and I do watch a lot of YouTube. And YouTube is good to learn things about cigars, bourbon, but a bunch of other stuff. And I was just noticing, I didn't notice it whenever I first grabbed the cigar, but there is a lot of extra glue on the edge of my band there. So it made it a little tricky to get off, but I was able to get it off of there.
I had to cut mine off.
Did you?
Yep. Yeah, it did not want to peel. The band is a really nice band, though. They make it look just like the label on the bottle. It's always a nice touch when they print on the inside of the band.
Yeah. It is double printed. Splendidly handcrafted. E.H. Taylor Jr., old-fashioned copper distillery. Almost the same thing that's on the front, but a little bit different. The barrel proof is definitely bringing out more flavors as longer to me. They're hanging around a little bit longer, but it's not anything extra.
No.
I would say. So not really more flavors. It's just hanging around a little bit longer on the palate. And I would figure that is the viscosity of the bourbon.
Yeah.
Because it is
very thick.
I mean, it takes some time to even get those legs to walk. Whereas if you have a thinner bourbon, the legs run much faster down the glass.
And there's not usually as many of them. There's a ton of them in here. I think my nose is finally getting used to the extra alcohol in here. Maybe able to smell a little bit more fruit on the nose. Definitely some of that molasses or caramel. We were talking about YouTube. That's one of when I'm sitting out having a drink or a smoke, I'll pull up videos on those cigars or those bourbons that I'm trying and compare what I'm tasting and smelling to what other people get.
So what I have started to do is, as tasting a bourbon or I am smoking a cigar, I will try and go to the website of the manufacturer. It's a little bit trickier with these guys here, but any of the Drew Estate stuff or Dunbarton, they have their own website.
Mm-hmm.
But you can go through and you can get the tasting profiles, especially bourbon, but you can get the tasting profiles of kind of what they're looking for. And then if I have it, I will actually taste it. So like caramel, for instance, I will take a little bit of caramel. I will take a little bit of honey. I will take a little bit of, if we have some vanilla pudding, or in the summer, it's a little easier with fruit wise. I'll take a piece of strawberry and then I'll, try the bourbon and see if that's really what you're getting. So I would suggest out there, especially if you want to become we'll call it cigar and bourbon snob, right? Like me, not really. But just to try and see, is it my palate? Am I matching up to it?
Right.
And is that really what I'm getting, or was it something else? because it could be something else. You know, everybody has different palates, but that's something fun I've started to do.
Yeah. And there's some, I think I've seen them on some websites, and I think I've seen some on Etsy for you can actually buy a nosing kit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got a bunch of different stuff in little containers that you can sniff and then see if what you're smelling is matching up to what you think it is.
And if any of you guys have been down to Heaven Hill, I can't say what's in the new one. Haven't been to the new one, but at the old building, when I did a what they call a you-do pour, you go in and you sit through a tasting, and then you literally pour your own from the single barrels. Whether for us they had Bernheim, Larceny, and Elijah Craig barrel proofs, and then they had the fourth one was so terrible to me. I forget, but there were 4 options that day. Wife and I were there, and then you go into what they call like the scientific room, and you literally, they have one of those kits, and you pull it up and you smell everything.
Mm.
And it would have been so cool to have that smell kit
while you were doing it.
While you were doing the tasting, right? And I think that probably helped me, because that was a while ago. That probably helped me in getting some of the different taste, you know, smell factors, so that I could taste them and things of that nature.
With the cigars, if you can't find on the manufacturers, usually the manufacturers will give you tasting notes of what you should be tasting on the cigars. But sometimes if they don't, some of the resellers will on their websites. I know Cigars International does a quick rundown of every cigar they sell pretty much. How's your final third going?
It's going pretty good. I haven't noticed too much difference.
Mm-mm. Little more pepper, but that could be because I was relighting it so much.
I don't get a whole lot of the pepper, just a hint. And I'm getting, I think, more of the molasses. And as we're sitting here sipping the barrel proof, what I noticed is the chocolate flavors that I got early on are coming back, but it's no longer the sweet chocolate.
More of a dark chocolate.
It's the dark chocolate. Yeah. And I don't know about you guys. Typically, people either love it or hate it. I enjoy dark chocolate, but it has to be with the right thing. Okay. Like German dark chocolate is really good. I think that the Maduro dark wrappers lend themselves more to that dark chocolate note. And I think the barrel proof is pulling more of that out because of the viscosity. Dark chocolate to me is typically more viscous and a little bit drier.
Yeah.
And I think it's just pairing very well. All that being said, do you have a preference over the small batch EH bourbon or the barrel proof
with this cigar?
With this cigar,
I think I prefer the small batch.
Do you?
Yeah, I think so. It just I think the proof might be overdoing it a little bit and kind of washing out some of the flavors of the cigar. Maybe.
I think I agree with you. I think the fruit that I got from the small batch was better.
Mm-hmm.
The complexity through the whole palate was more inviting.
Yeah.
I would say. It's not that the barrel proof is bad with the cigar, but I think there's just a more inviting flavor with the small batch.
The small batch is definitely a lot easier to drink with it.
Yeah.
Because I got there was no Kentucky hug, no burn at all with the small batch at just 100 proof. It just was super easy to drink with the cigar. This one, you're definitely feeling the Kentucky hug.
Yep. And it leaves a spicier, a hotter note. Maybe if it was initially on the cigar, but being that we're towards the end of the cigar gets a little hotter. I think it amplifies some of that heat on the palate too.
Yeah.
But I would say neither of them, well, I would say the barrel proof isn't bad in most instances, but the small batch, I think, would be my pick. And I think that's probably where they set the cigar up to match up to, not necessarily the barrel proof, probably. But I think overall, a very good cigar. A very good pairing with the E.H. Taylor small batch. Do you think that there'd be a better bourbon to pair this cigar up with? Or do you think that maybe the small batch is probably the best we could do?
I'm sure there's something out there that would be maybe not better, but different. It didn't really. They blended so well together. They melded so well together that it was an enjoyable pairing. But I think you could probably find something that amplified the flavor of the cigar or the bourbon more so than what that did. This is not the one, probably.
I would agree with that. I think it helped the complexity, but I don't necessarily think it did for both of them.
No,
as a whole,
which is interesting because the Eagle Rare was the opposite, because the 12-year, but the proof wasn't anywhere near as high. The 12-year brought out some of the more flavors of the cigar with the bourbon than what the 10-year did. But this one, I think that it's the other way around. But at the same time, both of the EHs were under the proof of the small batch. So maybe it's the proof of this that's kind of overpowering the cigar a little bit.
And that is part of that pairing that we always talk about, where the overall experience you want, right? Do you want something that amplifies everything up to flavor bomb, or do you want something similar to that Eagle Rare cigar that is smooth, consistent, and not as flavorful as this is, just because your palate's not there yet? And for a lot of beginners, it may not be.
Yeah.
Whereas I prefer more of a Maduro cigar. I prefer something that's going to kick hard. That's why I'm a huge fan of the Steve Saka, Mi Curitas type of stuff. I guess it really comes down to preference. I think it's a good match. But I think there probably is a better bourbon, like you said, that would probably bring some of that. You know what I would like to try it with? The Still Austin Cask Strength.
I was thinking that. Or Redwood Empire. The Pipe Dream Cask Strength would be a good one to try with it. There's a lot of cinnamon in that would, I think, accentuate some of the flavors from the cigar a little bit.
Yep. And with the creaminess, that would probably go with that cinnamon type of flavor and help bring the two together, meld the two together. But my opinion, a very good matchup and pairing. I would probably go with the small batch, probably for three reasons. One, the small batch is a lot easier to find, especially now. Two, the cost, even at MSRP.
Yeah.
To me, I forget what the MSRP is on this, but I think it's about $90, give or take $80 or $90. whereas a small batch for us is, it's 60 is
Yep.
MSRP. We're not talking secondary or anything for either of the bottles. And then the heat.
Yeah.
The barrel proof of this, at least the batch 13, there may be a smoother batch prior to that's a little bit better.
This cigar makes the small batch super easy to drink.
Yes.
It could be dangerous.
Yes.
How easy that is to drink.
I could have drank a whole Glen of that small batch and never even realized I was drinking any bourbon, to be honest with you. It would have just, it wouldn't have been water, but it would have been, just a flavored drink.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there was no burn at all on that.
And that's one reason I think E.H. Taylor is so popular, because it is such a smooth, complex bourbon for the money and for the proof, especially for entry-level folks. But
do you know which mash bill they use for the EH?
I want to say that is mash bill 1. So yeah, your mash bill 1 is like the E.H. Taylor. The Weller products are a different mash bill, being that they're weeded and whatnot. Yeah. And Buffalo Trace runs 4 different mash bills. And the Weller products are the same as the Pappy. And that's why you kind of say, the different blends become the poor man's Pappy and so on and so forth. But I think the biggest difference is just the age statement. And the mash bill 1 is also your Buffalo Trace. And I know from doing the tours, the E.H. Taylor stuff is stored in a totally different rickhouse. So that's kind of where they get the different flavors from and where it's stored in the rickhouse, which is just absolutely amazes me how it's different. It's in the same town. It's in, we're talking 100 yards from each other and you get a totally different flavor profile.
Well,
it's crazy.
Their one rick house still has the old steam heat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only, I think it's just the one. Is that Warehouse H?
Yes.
The one where they do Blanton's is still with the steam heat, if I remember.
Yeah,
right.
Blanton's is its own separate little area inside, like close to the gift shop and everything of that nature on campus. And I'm a huge fan of Blanton's. I don't necessarily think it's worth the money, but it is a very good bourbon. And I think it just takes so much heat now because
it's very good right off even the neck pour.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. But, well, I am back to, how are you doing on your ash? I am back to being very prestigious.
I've had to relight a couple times, so I got to knock the ash off when I do.
He likes to tap that ash, whereas, well, I can't say I don't like to either, but we had some fun with that today.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, I thank you for being on the channel again.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun.
We will have to come up with another one in this series and come up with another pairing for you. If you guys have anything, let us know down in the comments. Please like and subscribe. And as always, bourbon and cigars are much better with friends, family, people you enjoy being around. And I appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. Have a good day. Hope to see you out on the bourbon trail. Cheers.